Welcome to this explainer. Okay, listen up, because today we are adopting a completely different and frankly urgent mindset. I want you to go ahead and completely erase the phrase weight loss from your vocabulary. Why? Because traditional dieting, where you just relentlessly restrict calories, absolutely destroys your metabolism. Today, we're taking a deep, science-forward dive into biologically engineering our bodies. We're going to learn exactly how to preserve and even build muscle while strategically stripping away the fat. It's really a masterclass in treating your physiology like a highly complex engine that needs precise calibration rather than just starving it. So, here is our blueprint for today. We'll cover the muscle-centric paradigm, silencing metabolic noise, the overweight protein paradox, fasting without muscle loss, the mechanical survival signal, and finally, the nighttime casein shield. Let's jump right in.
All right, part 1, the muscle-centric paradigm.
First things first, we've got to fundamentally change how we look at this tissue. Muscle is not just cosmetic, It's not just about aesthetics. It is your primary metabolic engine and your absolute biggest glucose sink. It's an incredibly active endocrine organ. Every single time your muscles contract, they secrete these peptides and cytokines called myokines. Think of myokines as messenger molecules. They're communicating directly with your liver, your fat tissue, your pancreas, and even your brain. Your muscle is literally directing the metabolic traffic of your entire body. And man, this brings us to the ultimate crisis of typical weight loss. If you just drop pounds indiscriminately without fiercely protecting this vital tissue, you downgrade your metabolic engine. By lowering your resting metabolic rate, you're essentially forcing your body to burn fewer calories for the other 21 hours of the day when you aren't working out. The scientific literature quite literally refers to this process as accelerated aging. So you aren't getting healthier, you're just getting smaller, weaker, and metabolically sluggish. Moving right along to part 2, silencing metabolic noise. Okay, so to protect that engine we just talked about, we have to make sure our muscles can actually hear the chemical signals we're sending them. But, and this is a big hurdle, if you're carrying excess body fat, you likely have some baseline level of insulin resistance and systemic inflammation. This creates a really hostile cellular environment. It's essentially biological static. It means your muscles become basically deaf to the growth commands you're trying to send in via your diet. A weak protein signal, it just gets totally ignored by your cells because it can't punch through that static. So, how do we silence the static? We use a glucose shield. Honestly, this is non-negotiable. While insoluble fiber acts kind of like a broom for your gut, soluble fiber, stuff like psyllium husk or oat bran, is totally different. It actually absorbs water to form this thick, viscous gel right in your digestive tract. By getting in about 10 grams of soluble fiber right before your meals, you build a physical barrier. This slows down sugar absorption and completely flattens those post-meal insulin spikes. You're creating cellular clarity so the muscle can finally hear the signals again. Now for part 3, the overweight protein paradox. All right, now that we've shielded the system, we hit this incredibly fascinating biological paradox. A lot of people think, hey, I want to lose weight, I need to drastically cut all my macros, right? Even protein. No way. Because of that metabolic static, individuals with excess body fat actually need more protein, not less. During weight loss, simply preserving your fat-free mass requires about twice the standard recommended daily allowance of protein. We're talking roughly 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight. You simply need a much louder signal to shout over the noise of that anabolic resistance. So the crucial point here is exactly how we deliver that louder signal. To really shout over the static, you must get a solid, dense bolus of 30 to 40 grams of high-quality protein in a single meal. Why that highly specific number? Because it guarantees you deliver about 3 grams of the amino acid leucine. Leucine is the absolute ignition key. Muscle building isn't a dimmer switch, it's a binary on-off switch. Hitting that leucine threshold is what physically flips the MTR switch, which is the master regulator of muscle protein synthesis, straight into the on position. Which brings us to part 4, fasting without muscle loss. Let's look at how we practically build this into your daily schedule. Fasting is absolutely incredible for suppressing insulin and triggering fat burning. But here's the catch. A single giant meal only gives you one growth event per day. Our muscle machinery actually hits a refractory stop switch after about 3 hours of protein synthesis. So we map out the day like this. We use clear protein drinks or fast-acting whey to create strategic protein pulses every 3 hours. This gives you the leucine trigger to bridge the gaps between your fasts. It prevents muscle stagnation, but it completely preserves the metabolic benefits of your fast. Boom, you get 4 distinct growth events in just a single day. Next up, part 5. The mechanical survival signal. Now, as great as nutrition is, it alone isn't going to cut it. Muscle is massively expensive metabolic overhead, and honestly, your body actively wants to shed this calorie-burning luxury tissue if it doesn't think it needs it. General, random movement like walking the dog or gardening is fantastic for your heart for sure, but it completely fails to threaten homeostasis. Your body doesn't see any biological reason to keep huge, expensive muscles just to go for a walk. To override that deeply ingrained biological drive to shrink down, we must send an explicit mechanical survival signal. We literally have to command the body to retain the tissue. And here is exactly how you send that command. You absolutely must use heavy compound movements 2 to 3 times a week. We're talking about the big ones: lat pull downs, bent over rows, barbell squats, or a heavy leg press and leg curls. And you have to lift those loads to a proximity of failure. Why? Because this induces profound mechanical tension across the muscle fibers. It physically convinces your central nervous system that keeping this tissue is an absolute, non-negotiable survival necessity. It justifies the high metabolic cost of keeping the engine around.
Finally, part 6, the nighttime casing shield.
We really need to talk about the longest fasting period of your day. Think about it for a second. You've dialed in all your meals, you've pulsed your protein, you've lifted super heavy, but then you go to sleep. If your body runs out of circulating amino acids at, say, 3 a.m., it will literally turn on itself. It will cannibalize the exact muscle tissue you just worked so painstakingly hard to build just to fuel your brain and organs while you sleep. We obviously can't let that happen. So the solution here is highly specific. It requires a brute force threshold dose of exactly 40 grams of casein protein right before you go to bed. And look, casein is fundamentally different from whey protein. It's the ultimate nighttime armor. Let's break down the exact mechanics of this nighttime shield. First step, you take 3 grams of HMB. HMB acts as this incredible chemical shield, independently decreasing muscle breakdown by a staggering 57%. Then, step 2, those 40 grams of casein actually clot in your stomach. Yeah, it forms a bolus. So instead of absorbing instantly like whey, it slow drips amino acids into your bloodstream for a solid 6 to 7 hours. This combo creates a powerful anti-catabolic bridge that safely carries your hard-earned muscle mass all the way through the night. So what's the ultimate takeaway here? It's profound, really. Stop trying to starve yourself into health. Actually, scratch that entire mindset right now. Stop looking at the scale as the ultimate metric of success, while your underlying metabolic engine degrades. You now have the exact protocols: the soluble glucose shield, the leucine triggers, the mechanical survival signals from heavy lifting, and that nighttime casein armor. The only question left is, how are you going to implement this biological engineering blueprint into your life tonight?